everybody, welcome to the most casual tag I will probably ever film. Sorry for the video and audio quality. The lighting today is really weird and I don't have my white balance that I used to have on my webcam because my webcam is finally toast. It was a really nice HD one and the software has been eating all of my videos and I said, whatever, I'm done with this. And I'm waiting for my new camera to come in the mail. So in the meantime, I'm gonna try filming on my phone, which I got a new phone recently, so maybe this will be better than when I was filming on my old phone. Anyway, I feel kind of bad because I've been putting off doing this tag. It's the best loved books tag, and this was created by Chelsea from the Reading Outlaw, and she tagged me to do it, and I've been putting it off because the point of this tag is to show literally your best loved, most worn out books. It's about the book as a physical object that you have loved almost to death in some cases. And I don't have a lot of old books. I got rid of a lot of my childhood books just over the years. Whenever I wasn't attached to them, I would get rid of them. In the last 2 or 3 years, I've acquired most of the books that I own, and while many of them are favorites, I haven't read the actual physical copies that I have. I read most of my favorite books from the library as a child and didn't buy my own copies until the last couple of years. So I'm probably bending the point of this tag a little bit because I'm going to show you mostly very nice books. They just happen to be well loved, or I'm nostalgic about them for some reason. The absolute first one, of course, is going to be my copy of The Lord of the Rings. This is actually a very nice book, and I don't want anything to happen to it because it is my first copy. My parents gave this to me for my birthday when I was 11 or 12 years old. This is the illustrated edition by Alan Lee. It has a book plate in it when my mom wrote my name out in calligraphy. It's really cool. And it just has beautiful Alan Lee illustrations in it. This Lord of the Rings is special to me for many reasons. This particular book as an object is special because it was my first copy. I was so excited when I got it. It was in the full flush of my Lord of the Rings obsession back when the movies were coming out. But I have this thing about Lord of the Rings. I've never really talked about this, but I didn't learn how to read until I was 8 years old. I was late because I was stubborn and contradictory. And when I actually read The Lord of the Rings when I was 11, I always used that as kind of a defensive piece of evidence that I caught up with my peers. Somehow Lord of the Rings is really caught up in that. It was an achievement for me. And next is The Girl with the Silver Eyes by Willow Davis Roberts. This is actually one of the oldest books that I own. I don't even know when I got it. I just know I've been carting this around for probably more than 15 years. I was obsessed with this book as a kid, and until recently, it was one of the very few books that I'd ever read more than 2 times. It's about a group of children whose mothers were working for a company that did some sort of drug or drug testing. They were exposed to the drug or they took it, and then when their children were born, they all have silver eyes, and then they all start developing telepathy and telekinesis, and then they start finding each other when they're a bit older. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this was one of the first books I ever read about people with telekinetic abilities, and it was just mind-blowing, and I keep this because it was pretty inspiring for when I was used to be a budding fiction writer, and I remember that ideas from this book were really inspiring to me when I was writing my first fiction stories. So I have to say, as a kid, I was pretty good at taking care of my books, even when I moved them around a lot. I like shuffling books on my shelves. I like everything to be in the exact right place, alphabetical by author's last name. And so I move my books around a lot, but I tend to not like break the spines. They just get shelf wear on the bottoms and the bottoms of the spines, so I'm like that. Next is Classic Poems to Read Aloud, selected by James Barry. This is a very sturdy trade paperback. I am astonished that it is not actually falling apart because this was one of my school books. This was my poetry text in 4th or 5th grade, and I still read the poems in it. I have weird kind of juvenile sing-songy taste in poetry, and that's exactly what this is. But it has one of my favorite poems in it. It's actually an excerpt. It's a very long poem, Shah Jahan by Rabindranath Tagore, and the first 2 stanzas are in this. I memorized them for school. I loved it so much that I typed it out and put it as a poster on my wall for years. But yeah, this is just a lot of really famous poems, a lot of the ones that you study in school as children or whatever. And it really appeals to me. I haven't kept a lot of my school books, but I've never considered getting rid of this one. And yeah, I'm 25 years old, I'm an adult, and I still pull this book off my shelf and I read aloud some of them to myself because that's how I like to enjoy my favorite poetry. So I should expand my poetry horizons, I know I should. The next 2 are ones that people who've been around on my channel for quite some time will recognize because they are 2 of the books that I have read the most times over, and the first one is Dragon Song by Anne McCaffrey. It's the first book in the Harper Hall trilogy. This is a YA series inside of the Dragons of Pern series as a whole. You can start with it if you want to. If you want to start with the adult books, then pick up Dragonflight. This is one of the first Pern books I ever read. I didn't know it was YA at the time. I don't think it really matters. This is my original copy that I bought from Hastings when I was very young. It is turned yellow and it's actually pretty beat up. It's too small to really have a broken spine, but this is probably one of the oldest books I have that I'm really attached to the physical object and the imperfections and flaws in it. I've read it so many times that I recognize the typos, and there are some places in the book where the text isn't set straight on the page and it starts to creep up. It's skewed and it starts to go off the page in some places, and I have the new reprints of the series from Saga Press that have, introductions by people like Tamara Pierce and Brandon Sanderson, and I can't get rid of my original books because there's something about these and the cover art. I think that the cover art on the new editions is good, but it's kind of generic. These have personality. Like, that will always be how I think Mentally looks, so yeah. I'm gonna be rereading this book, probably starting tonight sometime. I'm rereading this with Tara from Terabyte. I think she's actually already read it because it's very short, but I'm really excited about that. This is one of my comfort reads. It's also one of the few books that I picked up and read or reread when I was in university. I had a real, I don't want to say dry spell in reading fiction when I was in university, but I just didn't have time to read other things. I was reading a lot of stuff for my degree and then my master's program, and I just stopped reading a lot of fiction. I caught up later, but this is one of the books that I took time out when I was feeling very stressed. I would just pick up this book and read it. The other one that I'm sure I've mentioned multiple times is Wild Magic by Tamara Pierce. This is the first book in the Immortals Quartet, and the story with this one, why this is so special to me, is it is signed. It is personalized and signed to me from Tamara Pierce. I've never met Tamara Pierce, but this is the book that introduced me to her. My mom was a librarian. She retired last year, and back in October of 2002, she went to a library conference where Tamara Pierce was a speaker or a guest author, and she got these books from me. She got them signed. She was like, "Rachel, you're gonna love these books. This is exactly your kind of thing." And for the longest time, the first 2 books in the series were the only signed books I ever had. I always thought they were very special because of that. Once again, just a comfort read for me. I love the story. There were actually striking similarities between the young woman's character journey in Wild Magic and in Dragon Song, and the similarity didn't strike me until some time ago when I was talking about them in another video. That was quite a while ago, actually. I seem to have this thing for comfort reads about young women who have talents but feel isolated from society, and then meet a group of friends that takes them in and nurtures them and helps them succeed. And they're almost like Mary Sue stories because they're kind of perfect. I think Wild Magic is better in that regard. Dragon Song is very much about a very good character with not many flaws. But sometimes you just want to read something like that doesn't have a lot of dark, depressing things in it to make you feel bad when you need some comfort. And then there's this book. This is the only falling apart book that I have in this video, unfortunately. I didn't completely break it. This is a very old book. It is the Manual of Foreign Languages by Jeffrey von Osterman, 4th edition. This particular edition is from 1952. It's so old it doesn't actually have a real copyright page. Yeah. A suggested linguistic tree. My parents got this for me at a library book sale many years ago, also during my Lord of the Rings phase when I was 11 to 14 years old or so, because I was very much inspired by Tolkien's constructed languages and his writing systems. I never really considered that you could do that kind of thing, and I really love language, and I wanted to create my own languages, my own writing systems. Basically, it's a bunch of languages. It shows you their scripts, how to pronounce the letters, and then for quite a few of them, okay, this is Norwegian. For a lot of them, it doesn't just have the alphabet and the writing system, it also talks about capitalization, syllabication, punctuation, diphthongs. I love the word diphthong, I'm probably not saying it right. Accentuation, articles, gender, adjectives, nouns. It gets into conjugation and declensions and numbers and days and just basic stuff like that about each language, which when you're trying to create your own language is really great inspiration. I have so many great memories of just pulling this book out on an afternoon and going, I'm going to create a new language. I'm going to, create a script based on Arabic today, and then getting out my calligraphy pens and trying to do that. Yeah, those were really good days. Those are my best loved books. I have a lot of favorite books. I have old books that are still well preserved, but those were the ones that kind of called to me when I was looking around my shelves going, what should I talk about in this? Some memories, some things I haven't really talked about before. If you've read any of these, you have to tell me down below. I would love to know if you've read some. Has anybody else seen that foreign languages manual? For a really long time, I was the only person on Library Thing who had that book cataloged. It was like my pride and joy. So I do want to tag some people, but I'm not exactly sure who I want to tag, so check the description box down below. It might be you. It could be you. You can also totally do this if you want to. You don't have to be tagged. I mean, come on. If you have falling apart books you want to show, do that. Absolutely do that. But I will tag some people down below. And yeah. I'm gonna go eat something, and I'll be back some other time. Bye.